All this meeting to order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the clerk may now call the roll.
Councilmember Porter,
Present.
Councilmember Middleton. Present. Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Present.
Councilmember Dundon,
Present.
Councilmember Costi,
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Present.
Council President Matavetsky.
Present.
Thank you.
We now have reports from committees. Have any committees met since our last meeting last week? Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Dundon, seconded by Councilwoman Middleton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Next, we have public comment. Residents wishing to submit public for the committee stuff, reminder that we are gathering resumes for the Environmental Commission still. So if you are interested in the Environmental Commission, send your resume to clerk@cityofbinghamton.gov. We're looking to select in September. Okay. Now back to public comment. So residents wishing to submit public comment may do so electronically by emailing their comments prior to 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting to clerk@cityofbinghamton.gov or in person during the meeting. If you are here for public comment, come on down. If there are multiple people that want to speak, you can come and line up in the seats over here. And we have the charter rules on public comment out on paper. Welcome.
My name is Rebecca Rathma. I am in the 6th District of Binghamton. As you know, I submitted the legislation under consideration tonight to amend Chapter 45 of the Charter to include on-house status. I wanted to read the letter of support from the National Homelessness Law Center to put it on record, as I don't believe that has yet been done. So I will read through that now. Again, it was submitted by the National Homelessness Law Center, specifically their senior policy analyst, Eric Tars. So dear Mayor Cram and councilors, I write on behalf of the National Homelessness Law Center to urge you to support the proposed amendment to the Binghamton Human Rights Law, Chapter 45 of the City Code, which would affirm its unhoused citizens' right to be free from discrimination in employment, housing, public accommodations, and education. Our choices define our community, and this council has an important one to make. No matter your race or background, people don't choose to be homeless. Discriminating against and punishing unhoused people is not the answer and just puts more barriers in the way of efforts to end homelessness. Enshrining these protections in law is an important first step that will provide floor to build on so that then we can work to make sure everyone has a place to call home, so no one needs to live in public spaces in the first place. This bill recognizes the true cause of homelessness, lack of affordable housing. Close to half of all Binghamton renters are rent burdened, meaning they are paying more than they can afford in rent every month. Under this bill, one of those hardworking residents or an elder on fixed income who loses their housing because their rent is too high and there is nowhere else for them to go would be protected against discrimination simply because they lost their fixed address. This approach recognizes the structural housing crisis causing homelessness and protects its victims from further harm, facilitating their ability to more quickly get back into housing. The Law Center is a national legal advocacy organization dedicated solely to solving homelessness. We have over 30 years of experience in policy advocacy, public education, and impact litigation. In 2014, we published From Wrongs to Rights, the case for Homeless Bill of Rights legislation, collecting and analyzing Homeless Bill of Rights legislation in 3 states and Puerto Rico. We have also helped support the Right to Rest Act legislation introduced in at least 4 other states. The Law Center has documented the failures and costs of criminalization of homelessness in more than 180 cities across the United States. We have also published best practices, model policies, and case studies on how to address homelessness constructively. This proposed amendment is consistent with the latitude cities have in addressing homelessness recently affirmed by the Supreme Court. The Law Center helped to organize more than 40 amicus briefs signed by more than 1,100 individuals and organizations, including Councilmember Hotchkiss and Binghamton School Board member Corinne Kirk in the Johnson versus Grants Pass case before the Supreme Court this past term. Although the court ultimately declined to recognize the applicability of the Eighth Amendment to the cruel and unusual punishments imposed on homeless persons forced to sleep and shelter themselves in public spaces, the majority opinion emphasized that communities had the latitude to experiment and find effective responses. Because the proposed amendment recognizes the threat of discrimination faced by Binghamton's unhoused residents. Because people experiencing homelessness have heightened risk of serious illness, hospitalization, and early morbidity compared with the general population, they are especially vulnerable to serious harms flowing from the loss of their shelters and other property. For many unsheltered homeless people, property loss is the greatest threat to their survival. Makeshift housing like tents offer protection, however rudimentary, from outdoor elements and allows the homeless citizens to seek shelter in locations where they feel most safe, relatively speaking. The destruction and removal of their belongings exposes already vulnerable individuals to increased risk of serious physical harm. By providing for a reasonable expectation of privacy and homeless persons' belongings, as well as protection from discrimination by healthcare providers, the bill helps ensure a healthier, safer Binghamton for all its residents. This bill helps recognize intersecting forms of discrimination. Homelessness disproportionately impacts persons of color, the LGBTQ+ community, and persons with disabilities. For example, Black Americans represent 40% of people experiencing homelessness nationally, despite constituting less than 13% of the overall population. Moreover, laws criminalizing homelessness are inequitably enforced. Unhoused Black and Latinx people are 9.7 and 5.7 times more likely to be cited under laws criminalizing homelessness than white people. The fastest growing subset of people experiencing homelessness are seniors.
You have about 1 minute left.
Recognizing the multiple grounds upon which people can be marginalized and affirmatively protecting them under the law is a strong step to remedy this. The only way to permanently end homeless encampments is to end the need for encampments. For example, Milwaukee County's Housing First initiative costs $2 million annually and reduces annual medical costs by $2.1 million, mental health costs to the county by $715,000, and legal system costs by $600,000. And I'll skip to the conclusion. Given the lack of affordable housing, communities need sensible and cost-effective strategies to solve homelessness. The best, most cost-effective and permanent strategy is to ensure that all who are unsheltered have access to a safe place to live. In the meantime, the best first step is for Binghamton to, at a minimum, ensure that those who are currently unhoused have protections against further harms from discrimination that will make it harder for them to exit homelessness. We urge you to pass the amendments to the Human Rights Act, adding unhoused status to its protections. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Come on up. Welcome.
Kenny Brown, west side of Binghamton. So with the unhoused status, obviously, I'm in support of that. I urge my Councilmember Kavanaugh to vote in favor of it. It just seems common sense. I mean, at this point, if you vote against it, you're less progressive than Jared Cram, which seems like a real interesting change in the last couple of weeks. But it's even just a a current problem of what's happening with the unhoused status issue of the Fourth Amendment because of what happened on the South Side that got recorded. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday. A citizen luckily was able to get it on camera as two Binghamton police officers harassed a homeless individual, seemingly if they're just sitting on the side of the road. They were ruffling through his items. The citizen asked what they were doing. They said they had just cause. You can watch the whole video. It's on YouTube now. It's on Facebook. You can ask. I'll send it to you. But it's a clear case of it happening just within the last week of a homeless citizen not being treated the same way that a housed citizen would. So I think that's pretty clear. This needs to pass to stop things like that from happening in the future. Because you can see in the video how degraded and dehumanized the individual clearly felt. I I talked a lot on that the last time, so I won't continue on that. I wanted to bring up the work session and the committee meeting about Charlie Ackerman. I had a big issue with what seemed to be a quick pass for Ackerman to just get the lot, be able to start. And I know there's a back and forth with me and a few council members about how it looked and how I saw it. And I don't know, I think the footage of both meetings show pretty clear that there wasn't a lot of pushback. There was, if anything, in the work session, a quick acceptance by a few, and I understand the housing need is very big, but we also have to remember that Ackerman is one of the main causes of why we need the housing. And to allow him to benefit on both ends seems like a spit in the face to the citizens, especially the ones that he pushed out and is now pushing into a 10-foot by 15-foot, because that's what 150 square foot room looks like, is basically a closet. They were in buildings that he now owns and now rents out at exorbitant prices to college students. He said in the committee meeting, I laughed to myself, he said, I'm not a wealthy man. I don't know what standards he's going by, but by Binghamton standards, I have a feeling Charlie Ackerman's a pretty wealthy man. And I think before you give him a pass on this, there should be rules set on charitable give back, some kind of deal for the city where this can be continued, where he doesn't just get to profit on both sides. But he said, I'm not a wealthy man, and by Binghamton standards, I just don't see that as true. So maybe too, we can get him to prove that to us with his tax returns if he wants to show us those, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. But I just urge you to consider that when you're looking at this proposal with Ackerman. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I think it would be wise to put some kind of stipulation in place where the city gets something out of it other than tin cans for the homeless.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Come on down. Welcome.
How are y'all doing this evening? Is this on?
Mhm.
Yes. Thank you. I would like to talk about homeless to a degree, and also talk about mental health, and also talk about,
Name and whether you live or work in the city of Binghamton.
I didn't hear what you said.
Start with your name and whether you live or work in the city of Binghamton.
My name is Philip George. I live at Woodburn Court. Like I was saying, I would like to talk about homeless. I would also like to talk about mental health, and I would also like to talk about drugs to a point, because homeless has a part of doing with drugs to a degree. And even homeless, say myself, I'm not homeless, but I am kind of homeless because I'm living in a municipal housing, or however you pronounce it, at that present time, and the rent keeps going up. And I don't understand that, because how am I or other people are going to be able to afford it? And I know a lot of y'all here have certain jobs and whatever else the case may be. But see, I believe if we necessarily try to attempt to help, not just what we've been doing lately, you know, and like everything really nowadays is really about college. You know, it's about people who can afford this and so forth for that. And like I said, I live in Woodburn Court temporarily right now for some type of reason. Somehow the good man upstairs blessed me to get in there, but I still have a drug problem. I have a drug problem, and there's other people in that building, other houseable municipal houses, and other people who don't have a tent or other places to go. And I don't understand how we let that keep on going on and going on. Like DSS is sanctioning you if you're 15 minutes late to a degree, which I don't understand how we go through that. You know, I mean, I understand everybody here has a life and everybody cares about certain things concerning their life and whichever else. But for us to be humans and caring about people, it seems like even this here, I'm not being disrespectful or anything like that, but it seems like majority of the time, the mayor or the council, whichever this is called, you know, they just tap on the hammer and then they speak about a few things and everything. And I thought it was very nice what the young lady here spoke about. Matter of fact, I haven't heard a lot of that to a certain degree, you know, and I just don't understand how we keep having these meetings and so forth and nothing gets done. I mean, for real, nothing gets done, you know. Matter of fact, I think 2 weeks ago, a gentleman who was homeless, he was living in a house and somehow it got caught on fire. Now he's doing 3 to 5. You know, unfortunately, I have been in prison and I seek for help. I ask for some type of assistance, a reentry program. And I also ask parole to help, but it seems like it's on deaf ears to a degree. I'm not saying they're not doing what they can do, I guess. I really don't know. From what I understand, it's not really, it's not enough. That's what I would say, and I really would like necessarily to try to help or try to help somebody to help them, to help me, and to help us, even if you're not homeless. I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't really make sense because fortunately, I was born in 1961. I had a rough life and whatever the case may be, and I've been homeless in more ways than one. I mean, I'm even still homeless now, but I have a roof over my head. It's really a shame. And I think all of us, even some of the younger people here and some of the older people here, they know it. I mean, it's really a shame what homeless people, drug addicts, or drug recoveries, trying to get help, mental health help. Because I spoke to a gentleman today. He wanted to go to CPEP. CPEP told him he couldn't stay there, get a couple hours sleep and then get out. I don't understand that. I mean, it's really a shame of what we be doing and everything. I mean, nobody knows when their time is up, and it's a shame of what we're going here. And personally, I think the mayor should be doing a little more than what he's doing. I really don't know the gentleman. I doubt if he'll ever speak to me if I see him on the street. I doubt if either one of y'all here really speak to me on the street if I said, excuse me, can I mean, it's a shame just to say hello to a certain degree, but thank you. And I'm sorry if I took too much time, and I really would like to come to a few more of these meetings just to communicate a little more. And thank you. And I hope I didn't offend nobody.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming. And you're always welcome. Always welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? If not, the clerk can read in anything submitted by 1 p.m. today.
From Rebecca Smith. Good evening. On Saturday, July 27th, 2024, my husband and I decided to ride our bikes along the Two Rivers Greenway for the first time. We began our trek at the north end of Ottenangle Park by the dog park and rode to SUNY Binghamton on the Vestal Parkway and back again. While we enjoyed the majority of the trail, we are wondering if you are aware of the encampments behind the old Kmart Plaza and Lee's Nails on State Street, and another encampment by the river on the south side of the South Washington Street Bridge. The trail itself from Sherry Lindsay Park to the South Washington Street Bridge is in a deplorable condition. The grass and weeds are overgrown, and we encountered trash, encampments, and a few people who appeared to be unstable, for lack of a better word. There was even an old mattress with clothing on it just off the trail behind the Holiday Inn. At one point, I told my husband that I felt unsafe and suggested that we turn around, but my husband encouraged me to continue, and so we did. The trail was in much better condition once we arrived at the South Washington Bridge and continued west towards SUNY. I'm certain that the City Council must be aware of this problem. If you are aware of this problem, why is it not being addressed? If you are not aware of it, may I suggest you take a stroll or bike ride and check it out for yourself. I don't think this is the Binghamton you want to portray. It's truly a disgrace to the area. I look forward to a response. Thank you, Rebecca Smith.
Thank you. All right. Now we'll thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. Next, we have first reading legislation. We'll start with local law 24-04, considered in municipal and public affairs. Councilwoman Middleton.
I'd like to make a motion for local law 24-04, a local law to amend the city code chapter 45 to include unhoused status as a protected class.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Middleton, seconded by Councilman Hotchkiss. Discussion.
Yeah, I have something I'd like to say, Council President. So just a few weeks ago, Mayor Cram stated that this law would not help anyone. Is the Binghamton public really supposed to believe that a few clerical changes, none of which changed the intent of the law, really changed his mind? Binghamton residents are smarter than that. The reality is this city needs real solutions to the affordable housing crisis, and everyone sees how dire that need is when we see the homelessness on our streets. This city deserves better.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilwoman Middleton.
First, I'd like to just continue on to what Mike was saying. From the beginning, Mayor Cram has been obstructive and negative about this legislation, and just at the beginning, he used fear mongering tactics to intimidate local business owners and falsehood and misled the public about this legislation. His current stance is absolutely inconsistent with his previous statements. It looks like he flip-flops on policy and whenever it's convenient to him. Honestly, like we knew from the start that this was a great legislation, and it is our goal to even do our due diligence and take our time to read over everything. So we knew from the beginning when this was introduced to us that this was the right thing to do. And I am going to be so excited to vote yes on this today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Porter?
First of all, local law 2404 was the legislation that was submitted really was by Rebecca Rathmel. And that, not the mayor. He was against this so much, just like he was against the Human Rights Commission. Like he was against the fact of the AG coming and saying, maybe there's something you should do about the police in your community. This is just after looking at that video that was out, that came out last week. Just solidified why we need this. It solidified why we needed the bad apples legislation. It solidified the fact that why we needed the Human Rights Commission. This is what we are here for. We are here for the people who voted us in. The people who voted us in here to try to change things within the city and not be the same old thing. The mayor acting like Biff Tanner and taking credit for something that he did not do or was so adamantly against, and been so adamantly against everything that this council has been trying to put forth for the city and the people of the city. So I'm excited about this, and I'm going to vote yes on this, and I'm going to continue to fight against the audacity of the mayor to try to take credit for something that he surely was against, and for surely he's against the council. I think he's been showing that ever since January. So.
Anyone else? Councilman Kavanaugh?
I've said numerous times at this table that we have to normalize again talking and dialogue and having a policy process in public that is able to be a place of dialogue, be a place of openness and transparency, and that accepts viewpoints from all of our constituents in the community. And this legislation has ended up being an example of that process, from citizen submittal through our committee process, through the polishing and the scrutiny of the legal department, through community feedback. Some of the point where it gets tense has been that in order to stimulate that feedback, it seems like everyone feels the need to get in high dudgeon and become, very overwrought and hyperventilating when they're reacting to any sort of policy proposal, instead of recognizing that things have a starting point and a refinement and an end point. And that's what has happened. And if we could just tone down the rhetoric a little bit, then I think we'd be in a better place. Speaking about the legislation itself, recognizing unhoused status as a protected class, I think, in the city of Binghamton is a basic reinforcement of the idea of the dignity of each individual person, each individual citizen of our community. So many times our concept of citizenship and civil participation is in one way or another based on property, based on being secure in your home or in your car. And when you don't have those things, There is so little of that civic person left. And this is reminding people that no, you are still a person, you are still a citizen, you are still part of this community. And having it enshrined in city code hopefully gives pause to people, at the average person as they're interacting with our fellow citizens, as well as a little institutional kick in the pants to be a little bit more thoughtful and proactive when dealing with unhoused folks. Just to be civil, to be humane, and to show dignity. And I think we have taken a step in that direction, and there will be more. So, thanks, everybody.
Councilman Porter.
Point of order. I was just wondering, whose rhetoric are you speaking of? Councilman Kavanaugh.
Well, I mean, in this case, I mean, I think there was, at the beginning of the process, there was a call from, a lot of our colleagues, on the administration side, there was a knee-jerk reaction against the legislation, as you have spoken to, as Councilman Dunn has also spoken to. And that was the overwrought rhetoric. Instead of just, I don't know at what point we were not open to hearing feedback and points of view from community members, from business owners, from staff, and including my own thoughts and feelings as somebody that's in customer service and has to deal with some of these issues that a lot of the downtown folks raised. So that's specifically what I'm referring to.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Hotchkiss.
Thank you. I just want to do, without echoing what my fellow council members have already stated, just thank Rebecca Rathmel for bringing this legislation forward. I think it has sparked a lot of conversation. I think some of it is challenging and difficult, but I think ultimately we're at a point where we are going to protect some of the most vulnerable members of our community. And I think that's a very important first step to begin to address our affordable housing crisis and to really begin to have a more pragmatic approach and a more effective approach to how the city is interacting with our unhoused neighbors. This is a very early first step that's going to be part of a larger plan. But it's a necessary first step to increase the protections for unhoused folks. So I support this, and again, I'm grateful that we're going to be moving forward with it.
Councilman Costi.
Yeah, I've disagreed with you guys on this since the beginning. It's not going to change tonight. For me, this law does absolutely nothing to help homeless people. Every American is protected under the Constitution, no matter their background. And I think it's time this council, we stop proposing feel-good legislation. We need to get back to work, find the root of the problem.
Point of order. What do you propose? Like, feel good legislation. You're saying we need to stop getting to that. I mean, you're lucky that you have the privilege of saying that what the Constitution states, but not everybody has that privilege that they can say the Constitution states something that it doesn't. The Constitution can state that it says something, but it's not what it is, and it's not being used what it's supposed to be used for. So what do you mean by that?
Well, if you would let me finish.
Oh, go ahead.
Instead of calling a point.
Go
of
ahead.
order. Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, it starts with the New York State and the federal government. I mean, we have so many environmental business regulations that they're moving good jobs out of our state, out of our country. People are moving out of New York State at an alarming rate. We could bring.
Point of order. What does that have to do with that? All right.
I mean, jobs lead to money, more opportunity for people that are homeless to get work, get a stable place to live. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Anyone else?
I'm
Oh, I
gonna-
think Councilman Porter was about to say something.
No, I'm gonna
I'm-
let Councilman Middleton.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm on fire. So like, I understand that, like, we all come from different backgrounds and, different, parties and everything like that. I don't think we're passing something that's a feel-good legislation. You're lucky that you've never had to be homeless, so you're not in that, predicament. But I just ask that you use grace. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, you should learn to use grace. Like, I have a beautiful home on the west side, but anything can happen and I can be homeless. Like, we have to really start using grace. And for you to say that the Constitution, to me, that's bullcrap, because like there's things that are on the Constitution, but every day I'm discriminated against. So the Constitution has nothing to do with anything.
Gonna awkwardly interject a reminder to try and use language to be inclusive of children watching.
She just,
Councilman Porter.
was all the words she used would use was bull crap, but okay,
I
Councilman
wasn't offended.
Thank you.
So I was listening to you and you mentioned jobs, and I was just thinking unemployment has been down. So that means there has been jobs available. It's just the problem is that those who are unhoused don't have the ability to get those jobs because you need housing to get those jobs. So if you take a ponder back and actually look at the research that has been placed upon you and read it, you would have found out what would have been placed, what that means about jobs. And the funny is always put on federal and state to do those jobs, to change those things. But we're right here, right now. We're local government. We can legislate. We have the power to do those things. And it's not a feel good. It's a right thing to do. It's not about what makes me feel good. It's about what I know is right. Housing, food, and healthcare is a basic need. It's not a privilege, as though it may be that for you. But it's not a privilege. It's a need and it's a basic right. And once you can understand that, maybe you have some semblance of a soul.
Can we reduce on personal attacks? Councilman Costi.
Well, I mean, it is unconstitutional to discriminate, for an employer to discriminate based on that. So, I mean, your whole point is invalid, but go ahead.
My whole point isn't invalid because as that sat there with that video, they sat there and illegally searched a man on the basis of who his status was, just because. And if that's the whole idea that we can just go along with what police do all the time, and police have shown have not with people, has never been for people so far. It's always been about property. Another thing, take a history lesson. I have mentioned it plenty of times that we police were once slave catchers. That's not emotional. That is true. Though I know Republicans have problems with history. So this is Constitution is there. People discriminate. They don't even go by the Constitution like Councilwoman Middleton mentioned. Because most of the time they do discriminate. They do it regardless. Just because they can. People choose to do those things. They choose to do right and they choose to do wrong. And most of the time they choose to do wrong. So as you push the Constitution, this is something to say, to enforce more onto the Constitution and to look at people as human beings. And I know that might be a problem for you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, I want to
Okay, Councilman Dundon.
So, and my own beliefs on this. I was raised in a military family and I can track members of my family going all the way back to fighting for the North in the Civil War. No American citizen should be discriminated against. Now, whether it's the Constitution or our own local law, it's only as good as it's enforced. The nice thing about us putting this in our local law in our chapter, it gives the community, whether it's residents or community groups, of when these people's rights are infringed upon, they actually have something to do. And then when the Human Rights Commission is up and running again, because I do believe our residents are smart enough to vote on that, that now they'll have some place to go with a law to fall back on. So it is putting the right steps in place. But we all know that the actual root is the fact there are not enough beds, there are not enough rooms or roofs for the citizens in this city. So as we put these in place to protect them, then our goal moving forward has to be to build housing for them. Or then actually I'd have to say then if we fail on the building for them, maybe Councilman Costi is right and all we are doing is feel good legislation. So we have to see this through to the end or we're just blowing hot air.
Anyone else? I took a stab at kind of understanding and charting out what this legislation is and what it is not. So what it is, to go to Councilman Costi's point, it actually would make addresses optional for job applications. So one could apply for a job without having a permanent residence. That if two different people want to lay out a blanket in the park to have a picnic, that just because one of them is perceived to have a particular housing status and the other one is not, that both would be allowed to enjoy a picnic in the park. What it is businesses can't put up a sign that says no homeless allowed, right? You can't just put up a sign and say certain members of our communities aren't allowed. It is no discrimination for higher education. So for SUNY Broome and Binghamton University, their campuses within the city of Binghamton, if you don't have a permanent address, you can still apply to go to college. What it is not, it does not magically legalize ripping open bags and leaving trash on someone else's property. It does not legalize people sleeping on someone's front porch. It does not force businesses to open up their bathrooms to non-customers, right? So the is and is not of what this is I think pretty important. I think a lot of the things that people are concerned about, this is not that. And what it is a lot of those things are, I think, something that most people, when they understand actual examples, are highly not problematic. One of the things when I was running for office, I had a bagel made by a gentleman who was telling me that he was losing his housing. He had been living in his place for over 5 years. He had never missed rent. They were converting that housing to student housing. He was not afforded a new lease. And he was pushed to living on friends' couches. So this is somebody who has a job. I know, like, when people are hearing this legislation, they're thinking about very specific people, but there's a lot more invisible, unhoused persons like this person who was making my sandwich for me while wondering where they're going to sleep next month or if their friend was going to kick them off their couch. So I think that the way we think about this issue and the visuals that come to mind are not necessarily what people are initially coming to. And I just want to make sure that we made it clear what this legislation does. And so that's it. I don't know if anyone else wants to share any thoughts back after my statements. Okay. Councilman Porter? No? It's a.
I would be in agreement with you that that this does not clearly, when Ms. Rothmel had came up here and she had mentioned that this does not supersede some of the things that come in. So I just feel this is good legislation. This is something that is needed. So it's just an agreement.
Thank you. All right, and if there's nothing else, then the clerk can call roll.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
No.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 6-1.
All right, the local law passes. Next we have introductory ordinance 024-61, considered an employees. I will pass things over to Councilman Porter.
This is introductory ordinance 2461, ordinance to amend the 2024 engineering budget to adjust for the budget transfer area. I believe this was dealing with the Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage Treatment Facilities. I think we had mentioned this back in February. One before that. Oh, sorry. I apologize. This, the 2024 engineering department budget to adjust for the budget transfer error.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Councilman Porter, seconded by Councilman Costi. Discussion. Councilman Kavanaugh.
Just as a refresher, this was basically somebody typed in the wrong budget line. And we did a transfer earlier this year. This is rectifying that, so personnel can be correctly paid. So that's all.
You. All right, if there's, Councilman Porter.
I was thinking, is there a way to maybe to not commit to so many errors? Because I noticed that we had errors prior to this before when people have come up. So if there's, I know this was not under the current comptroller. I believe the current comptroller is trying to rectify most of all those things that had some errors to it. So I'm hoping this is becoming better going forward with the new comptroller that we have now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope. All right, clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. Those are 7-0.
You. The ordinance passes. Next, we have introductory ordinance 024-63, considered in finance. Councilman Kavanaugh.
I'd like to motion to pass 024-63, an ordinance to amend the 2024 Binghamton Johnson City Joint Sewage Treatment Facility budget to effectuate a 2023 budget transfer.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Kavanaugh, seconded by Councilman Middleton. Discussion. And Kavanaugh.
I think Comptroller Robinson gave a pretty decent overview of this at work session. We are accounting for, so the treatment plant has changed their accounting method and their operational method over to an enterprise fund, and this entails also dealing with depreciation differently in the accounting. So this takes into account depreciation of the equipment and properly accounts for it on the other side of the ledger through debt service and reduction of the fund balance. It's not, so this is not expending any money, changing any money, whatever. This is basically an accounting fix that will be included as normal, in normal function going forward. There was a little bit of a legal question between work session and today over the fact that this request came in May, I believe. And according to the intermunicipal agreement that governs the operation of this, if a request isn't acted on, if a budget request or a budget transfer is not acted on within 35 days, Bob? Yes. It's deemed to be denied. So my reading of it and the comptroller's reading of it is that this is actually the comptroller really asking for the change. It's not directly coming from the board. We're not actually spending any money. The two sections of the IMA that discuss this are really about doing transfers to spend on a capital matter or on a non-capital item. We're not actually spending anything. This is a accounting fix, and just to take so that's I think how the comptroller and I both feel. Corporation Counsel may have slightly different feeling, but we also took a budget, or I think a belt and suspenders approach in that Billy Goodson from the treatment plan also sent an extra request over to basically reset the 35 days. So hopefully we have covered any questions there. But my view is that as the owners, we're taking this up anyway. So I think we could do that despite whatever the 35-day issue is. And I also went through estimate and apportionment already, correct? So they've resolved this issue as well, or they view it resolved.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. All right. There we go. So I think we are covered if anyone is objecting to doing this accounting fix from that point of view. Anyone have any questions? That's kind of a lot. No? Okay.
Thank you. The clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh, Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 7-0.
The ordinance passes. Next, we have introductory ordinance 024-64, considering planning. Councilman Hotchkiss.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt introductory ordinance 024-64. This is an ordinance authorizing the sale of 43.5 Clinton Street for $1 to Trout Brook Housing Development
I'll second the motion.
Fund Corporation.
Motioned by Councilman Hotchkiss, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Discussion.
Just a reminder, this is a parcel that is owned by the city that is adjacent to 41 Clinton Street that is going to be for the development of affordable housing through First Ward Action Council, even though the legal entity showing here that we're transferring it to is the Trout Brook Housing Development Fund Corporation.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay, the clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 7-0.
The ordinance passes. Next, we have introductory ordinance 024-65, considered in finance. Councilman Kavanaugh.
I'd like to make a motion to pass 024-65, an ordinance to amend the 2024 general fund budget to adjust for professional services with Labella Associates.
I'll second the motion.
Motioned by Councilman Kavanaugh with a second from Dundon. I'll give it to Costi this time. Seconded by Councilman Costi. Discussion. Councilman Kavanaugh.
So we had comptroller and Mr. Slider from Code in on during work session to discuss this. So we kind of approved this new process where we will have an internal contract for code review of plans that's kind of directly farmed out to Labella, who the city has a very good history of working with and kind of likes their methodology. So it kind of internally will fast track large project plan reviews. So this is a contract up to $60,000. And they will chunk away at it as needed. My questions on Monday revolved around the specific budget line that we're assuming an extra $60,000 of revenue in. And judging by the revenue in that line in 2022 and 2023 up till the budget was done, it looked like this was a large addition. But between what the Mr. Slider and Mr. Robinson met yesterday, and I happened to be in the building, so I was in for a bit of that meeting. Kind of went over the numbers of what's coming into that line, the amounts, the fee schedule for the new large projects that come in. Anyway, I'm personally satisfied that the revenue will at least equal what's being paid out to Labella when we need them. So that $60,000 increase on the revenue side, I think is fine. And obviously the expense side will also be fine then. So we've got that straightened out, but also, you know, we had a discussion going forward when things come about like this and that they're getting asked to be expedited, we get some, you know, an updated munis report or something to show, you know, what the status is of things especially when it's being expedited. So I think we can kind of establish that and you know, work on that going forward.
You, Councilman Porter.
Councilman Kavanaugh, I was just wondering, since you had a meeting with them, did they express what things that go into that revenue or which is going to be on that budget line going forward? And hold on, also another, is there a way that whenever this comes up, do we give a deadline or do we give a certain amount of maybe time instead of having them come here with quickly expediting something and having that information prior to coming to work session?
Oh, I mean, we can always I can always deny expediting if it's that critical to us that, you know, and we don't feel we have answers. That's certainly our prerogative. I was comfortable enough with their responses on Monday, and then they absolutely followed up yesterday that you know, that I was personally fine expediting this. But sure, I mean, if we don't get answers, we put the brakes on. That's part of what we're here to do. As far as revenue that goes in that line, so there are multiple lines for revenue in the building and code. And then, so some of them are specific. I think they break out like plumbing permits and electrical permits and all those individual permits. These are the like the building and planning sort of specific permits. And again, this money is specifically coming out of those very large project money. So that we can certainly discuss the fee structure during budget season when we discuss other fee structures, but it seems like at least up to, say, a threshold of, don't quote me because I don't have all that stuff in front of me, but say up to the $10 million mark, the current fee structure would absolutely cover the plan review costs that this contract is being used for. So that check coming in would cover, you know, on these large projects, the money we're expending. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Councilman Dundon.
Yeah, I just want to chime in from construction experience. And the reason why an agreement like this is needed, like with us buying the St. Mary's Rec Center, our code officers are great when it comes to residential stuff, but when it comes to commercial buildings or big construction projects, you need an array of engineers that the city just does not have the ability to hire, pay for, or to train. So we have to have some kind of agreement like that and moving forward, especially if we plan to build housing in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Porter?
It's just that I know when this came up at work session, I know I have voted not to expedite this. Because I had some questions, which obviously had some answers. So there's some things that have made me change my mind on certain aspects of it. And so looking forward to how this works out, so.
Thank you.
Well,
Councilman Kavanaugh?
just building off, Councilman Dundon is that kind of the advantage for city and also people undertaking projects in kind of bringing the farming out in-house. It's a weird way to put it, but by having this relationship built up with Labella, it kind of instead of having some out of town firm we've never heard of from a developer from who knows where, we have a go-to firm for these reviews that we're comfortable with as a city, and have a proven track record. So it's people we, have a track record with that we're kind of comfortable dealing with. So I think that's important. It's the next best thing to in-house talent, I think.
Thank you. And if there's nothing else, the clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon.
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That is 7-0.
Okay, the ordinance passes. Next, we have introductory resolution R 24-64, considering employees. Councilman Porter.
Yes, this is introductory resolution R 24-64, a resolution to adopt a record of activities for elected officials. I would like to,
For looking for a motion,
Yeah,
second, and then, yeah.
I would
so-
like to make a motion for that.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilman Porter, seconded by Councilman Costi. Discussion.
Also like then make a motion to hold over.
Okay. Motion to hold over,
I'll second.
motion by Councilman Porter, seconded by Councilman Middleton. Discussion.
I'm just curious on why you want to hold it over.
There seems to be some more issues or some discrepancies that we're trying to seek out and get.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Councilman
I-
Kavanaugh.
So, my ROA, first of all, needs to be appended to this. Since last work session, Nate's was only in, then Hadassah got hers in. Mine is not appended to this yet, although it's done. But there's also the question that I asked at work session of the length of the workday that has been decided for council people. It's 7 on here as the normal workday. The state allows a range of 6 to 8. And a lot of the exemplars for elected officials cite 6, and I think that's a more representative and fair, and this is something we can absolutely discuss, a more representative and fair sort of way of looking at what we do. We have a lot of random days, later nights, weekend stuff that we have to show up to that's not necessarily an 8-hour long workday, but it's all of these more frequent, shorter days, I think reflects what we do. So I'm looking at, we don't know. I think Bob, lawyer Bob, I'm sorry, Bob, in a meeting, but I think Bob's going to help figure out where we came up with that numbers, the 7-hour workday. Comptroller and personnel did not have a ready answer. So we're looking at it a little bit more. And then there is from the retirement system, there's a standard resolution sheet to change that I think we will pass along with or before we do the ROA. And since the whole darn thing is late anyway, we might as well take one more week and figure it out.
Absolutely. I mean, I
thank you.
opted out. That's why I was leaving it to the council members that fill it out, so I could get the gist. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we're taking a vote on the holdover.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon.
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye. So our 24-64 has been held over. So now we move on to communications from council members. So thank you again to everyone who came out. And tonight we'll start with Councilman Hotchkiss. Go this way.
Got nothing to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Costi.
Yeah, I think what makes our democracy great is that we can disagree with each other. Other countries don't have that liberty. And something you just don't see anymore in local politics, state politics, federal politics is the two parties working together. All you see is name calling and rhetoric. And I'd like to get back to a time where the two parties did work together to pass legislation. Events going on in Binghamton this weekend. There's a block party downtown. The weather looks pretty horrible, but I plan on being there. So I hope to see some people out there. And then lastly, I just want to condemn the violence that happened over the weekend and just say that my thoughts are with the victims and the victims' family. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dundon.
I don't have any comment tonight.
Councilman Porter.
The First Ward Neighborhood Watch meeting will be starting back up in September. For some of the people to know that will no longer be at Woodrow Wilson. Will now return back to the First Ward Senior Center. And that would be every second Tuesday of the month. I'm guessing at the same time at 6 o'clock. So please come out to that. On the 24th of August, Trinity AME will be holding a back to school event with giving out backpacks. That will be from 12 to 4. That's why I was trying to look up the time, so don't really necessarily quote me, but I do know it begins at 12. So please come out, especially in First Ward. All the children come out, get book bags, get some school supplies to get ready for the new school year. It's something that I'm kind of excited about because my youngest is starting high school this year. So this is and both my sons will be in high school. So this is, and it just shows I'm getting older now. So please come out for that. And so far that's all I got right now.
Thank you. Councilman Middleton.
Just a few things. On Sunday, I had the pleasure of hosting an event at the Greater Good Grocery Store. It was about, I'd say, about 1,200 people in total. We gave out backpacks. Nate cooked on the grill. Councilmember Nate cooked on the grill. But it was a really good time, and more importantly, it was good to help people in the community, because that's my favorite part of this job and my other job. Also, we'll be starting back up Wednesday or our Thursday meetings, West Side meetings, August 22nd. We'll start up our West Side meetings again, and I hope that people come out to the meetings. But I just wanted to agree with Councilmember Cossey about, we should work together as parties, as different parties, but we also, while working together, we have to understand that people have differences and they have different backgrounds and different voices. So even if we don't agree or disagree, we represent everybody. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kavanaugh.
I'm good. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. CARES program has a backpack and school supplies giveaway, free backpacks and school supplies for City of Binghamton students, grade K through 12, August 22nd, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Saratoga Community Center. We have the Southside Sundays, August 11th, live entertainment at Southside Commons Park. Event begins at 2 p.m. Bring a lawn chair. The bands this month are Bass and Brown and Wild Card featuring Alyssa Crosby. And the Southside Neighborhood Assembly is soliciting suggestions for next year. So if you have ideas, if you email me, I can put you in touch, or if you go to their Facebook page, you'll be able to find an email for them. August 31st, the American Civic Association Garlic Festival is back at Ross Park Pavilions. So I'll give more dates and times as we get closer. Wild About Reading is back for August at the zoo. So that's Thursdays, in August from 11 a.m. to noon. They have like an animal, a story, and a craft, and it's free with admission. August 9th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. At the Discovery Center, they have the Luma Living Lights mural youth workshop. So if you have a kid 12 and under, you can bring them and they can do designs that I guess get incorporated into the 2024 festival, September 6th and 7th. If you cannot make it, an adult can pick up the templates, but they do need to be in by August 16th. Spice of India has a sign up announcing that it's opening October 12th. They serve Indian and American street food, and they're on the corner of Mary and Vestal Ave. This Saturday is Binghamton Bridge Pedal, which goes through a lot of people's districts. I don't know if it gets out to East Side. Yeah. But that'll be a nice event. Their registration is required, comes with a t-shirt, and it is free to register children. And that's Saturday in the morning. If you Google Binghamton Bridge Pedal, it'll get you to the registration form. Councilman Porter, you have a question?
Well, I guess, is there a point of order? Oh, okay. I just want to make a correction because now that I have it out, because I didn't have it. So this is the Appalachian Alumni Chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in partnership with Trinity AME Zion Church, Boone Tioga, NAACP, and State Senator Leah Webb will present a school supply giveaway. And it will be Saturday, August 24th. The time is 10 a.m. to 12. So,
Perfect.
so I just want to make
Thank
that
you for
correction.
issuing the correction.
So that way.
There's a number of backpack giveaways. There's hopefully one that is easy to get to for anyone within the city. If you are looking for a backpack giveaway, I would guess that if you can't find it yourself, if you email your council person, they'll probably be able to help you find one near you. So thank you. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to.
I make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Porter, seconded by Councilman Dundon. All in favor?